Hey, good morning. It's Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing, joining you today to bring you another slice of social media pie. Guys, I am so excited because today I have with me a very special friend, Sandy Harvey. Sandy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing great, and I am hungry because you just showed me something before we started. You want to show everyone else what is this lovely delicacy you have in front of you?
So these are my wonderful, famous shrimp nachos
Oh,
with jalapeno peppers in there and some lettuce and tomato on top.
let me just try to
Here.
reach over.
Yep. Here you go. Yep. Pass it
Oh,
along to you.
I love it. I love it. And Sandy, people know me for pie, and nachos is starting to become a little bit of your
Yes.
personal brand, if you will, right? That's kind of your thing, right?
Right. Yeah. It's diversity in the nachos. So you
I
can fix them any kind of way.
See, there's analogies, and that's
Uh-huh.
just, you pick something and you can draw analogies and you can bring part to your story. And you and I actually had a talk at a conference once. You were talking about cooking, and I'm like, there's all these analogies with ingredients and
Hmm.
how food makes us feel and how food brings people together. And I'm like, it's just there's a lot that's going on there. So very excited. So how are you doing today?
Things are going well. I feel like I'm
Yeah,
going 100 miles an hour and
yeah.
then really moving 5 miles an hour. But hey,
That's the way
keep
of
it
it these
moving.
days, right? We're
I'm
moving
moving.
fast forward and time is standing still. It's like it's a weird world we're in right now. But
Yeah,
I'm so happy to see you online. It's been a while since we've seen each other in
I
person.
know.
And we'll see each other again someday. But for now, it's nice to see you virtually. So what I'd like to do first is welcome anybody who's watching us, whether you're watching on LinkedIn Live or Facebook Live. I would love to invite you to leave a comment below so we know that you're watching because we can't see you. But once we see your comments, we can pull those comments up on screen. And then as we're having the conversation here today too, I want to remind you to join us in the conversation. If you'd like to add to the conversation, if there's elements you want to kind of touch on. If you love nachos, you can drop that in the comment right now and say, I
Yes.
love nachos. Myself, I love like the combo, like the meat and the beans and the cheese and the sour cream. And my mouth is watering as I'm talking about this. So all of this stuff. And you said shrimp nachos, you said, right?
Shrimp.
And now,
Yes.
oh, chicken. I'm like starving. I'm going to eat lunch after this today. But, but no, guys, drop your comments on here. And, we've got people that are joining. I'm going to pull your comments on screen as we're getting the conversation started. So I definitely like to keep these interactive. But thank you, Sandy, for joining today. And why don't we start with, I want to talk a little bit about you to start with, but I'm trying to remember where you and I first met, and we were on the pre-call, and I was like, where was it? I feel like at one point, like I didn't know who you were, and then all of a sudden I knew, and you were everywhere. And then I feel like it was through some of Lee Meadows, Meadows Consulting, the HR
Yes.
events that he was doing with Tina Marie Woolfield. I kind of feel
Mhm.
like that's where it was. Do you
I
remember?
think yes, no, I think it was with Lee and
Mm-hmm.
it was years ago, but I
Yeah,
remember you before your entrepreneurial days.
yeah.
And I was just like, because Brenda Miller really is everywhere.
That is the smoke and mirrors effect that I have created.
She
Um,
really is everywhere. I'm like, everybody knows Brenda. I'm like, okay.
yeah, but don't you feel like sometimes I bump into people and they're like, yeah, they talk about and they're like Sandy Harvey. I'm like, oh, I know her. That's
I
my
know. Yeah,
Sandy.
right. I know her before you did.
Right, I knew her before she was cool. But no, I think it was like in my I think it was maybe when I was back at Walsh, we started to,
Yeah.
have some interaction at conferences and stuff like that, but just through the HR community. You're one
Mhm.
of those people who are just such a genuine connector of people. You're compassionate, you're just a wonderful person all around. So it's like once you get to
Aw.
know Sandy, you guys, you're just gonna be like, oh, I know Sandy too. You'll be like, so why don't you, if you could, Sandy, take a minute or two. And for those people who
Sure.
don't know who Sandy Harvey is and what your company Exodus Consulting is all about, why don't you take a minute to describe that for us?
Sure. So I'm Sandy Harvey, native Texan. I've been in Michigan 18 years. Every time it snows, don't call. I, I am a big whiner. And I have
Wait,
founded
Weiner, WHIN or WIN?
whiner. Like severe whiner.
Right.
But
Okay, good.
I have founded Exodus Consulting Group. It's been October 2017, and I really wanted to make an impact with companies and organizations around HR strategy, organizational development strategy, and diversity and inclusion. And so I really have been extremely passionate, especially now around D&I, but the HR role changes, and I am excited about being able to go into organizations and really help them.
Awesome.
Really help them.
So I heard you say D&I, and in my mind, I heard the letter D, the letter N, and the letter I, but I think it's probably D and I. Could you explain what that means for people who maybe aren't familiar?
Sure. That's the Texan in me. It will come out a lot of different ways, but diversity and inclusion, or diversity, equity, inclusion, I consider myself to be a diversity and inclusion disciple. I also do executive coaching and leadership coaching. And so really, when you think about inclusion, you think about workplaces and workspaces, it's just important to be able to have, be around people that don't look like us, but then also add value to our lives because they're different from us. And so that's what I really appreciate about meeting different people from different places and from all over. And it's great.
Yeah. Well, you're passionate about what you do. And I know a little bit of your backstory too, from kind of corporate to entrepreneur. We met for coffee. Do you remember once upon a time it was at, it was in Fraser. What was the name of the place?
Right up the street. It's not there anymore.
No, Quirky Girls Coffee Shop. It was in Utica and Fraser. And it was this little it's like this little niche place that it's not the Panera and Starbucks, but it's kind of like this community coffee shop bakery. And we're like, hey, this can be our hangout place. And unfortunately, I think they actually, they closed the operation there, but I think they're still baking for families, but I think they're doing, out of their homes and stuff now. Gotcha. But but it's nice to we're both Macomb County girls. And for those that are watching, where are you watching from? Are you in Michigan? Are you in Metro Detroit like Sandy and I are? And we've had some folks already commenting, from different places in Michigan and across the world. And where in the household are you watching from? Are you on your back patio? Are you in the living room? Are you, in the kitchen? It's funny nowadays, Sandy, you and I both work out of home offices, but everyone else in the world has had to figure out a place to work. And I don't know about your spouse, but when my husband first started working at home, he was in the living room and then he was in the kitchen, and he's like he kind of has found places. And then we had the folding table and we had another table, and I've offered for him to work out of my office, but it's kind of my space, and he's like, no, I don't want to work in there. It's been a challenge, but at any rate, we've got a great conversation. When I asked Sandy to come on the show with me, you guys, I said, what do you want to talk about? You can talk about anything at all. And Sandy said, let's talk about rediscovering your purpose in uncertain times. And I know we were in the days of COVID when the topic was originally set. Right. And then we're continuing to have shifts in what is happening in the world since then. And I was like, wow, even more relevant now with what's going on in the world. So so Sandy, why don't we start the conversation? If you could tell us a little bit about your background, why is this such an important topic for you, discovering your purpose and uncertain time? I mean, uncertain today, and tomorrow it changes, and then it changes. I mean, it's like a continually relevant topic, right?
Yeah. I mean, uncertain can be after divorce. It can be after death. I mean, uncertain times is a part of our life, but sometimes we don't really find our purpose or really think about it. We just get into the move and groove of, I got to get up, I got to go to work, I have to do this. But, when you're living purposefully, like I see you doing, you love what you do, and I can see that. And there are a lot of people that I don't feel love what they do, but it's an opportunity when it's almost like a pressure cooker, when we're faced with hard times and difficulties, and we don't know the way out, and we don't know how to plan for it, and our vision board doesn't work anymore, and you just throw that out of the window. How do you find the place to where it's impactful and meaningful?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I love the term you used earlier, pressure cooker. I was using the same term myself, because I feel like, it's so stressful right now, and we're in the midst of, a very traumatic time for all of us. Whether someone who's been affected by COVID or not, we're living in our households with our families, or some people are living by themselves right now, and there's a stress that's associated with that. But you almost can't say anything about it right now because we're still in it. It's like once we get out of this pressure cooker, we can go, oh my gosh, can you believe that? Can we, but we're in it. We're still in this, very difficult situation right now. And So the pressure cooker, I love the term that you use there.
No, I mean, it's interesting, because if someone would have told us that in June, all of these things would happen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, is there another country I could go to?
Right.
Like,
I was like, do we need to get our passports in line, or
where do we go? And you can't go anywhere because COVID is everywhere. So when you think about how do you make the best of the life that you have, it's very important that you focus on, I can do this. And also be around people that really help energize you. There's nothing worse than having to be around draining people. It's like, I can't right now. I don't have the mental faculty to make it all work. And then on top of that is, you know, my husband and I, we pastor. So that's a whole nother layer of things that go on of you want to make sure people are okay, but really how are you? How are you doing? And how do you find your purpose?
And I feel like, you know, all of these conversations we're having lately, Sandy, are starting with, and you and I even did it. It's the mental check-in. We do the surface level. How are you doing? And then I'm like, all right, how are you doing? Like, really, how are you? Like, how are you know what I mean?
Really?
Like, where's your mind, generally speaking, and then where are you at right now? Like in a headspace, you know, type of moment. And it's really challenging right now.
Yeah. And I found too, you know, the helpful thing is I'm a fixer. I'm a make it right. I'm a, you know, anal planner. But in this space, I've had to give myself a break because I can't plan my way out of this. I can't, you know, there's so many things that, you know what, you just have to accept it and be okay with it. And that's where I found the most joy, is realizing I don't have to control this.
Yeah.
And no one else I'm sure has that issue, but if you have an issue of control, then you're always looking for a way to, you know, try to make everything right, and you can't.
Yeah. And it's hard when you're used to, and in a normal day, you know, normal kind of, you know, way of life, and the pre-COVID days, the normal-ish, you know, we knew what to expect, and you get into a regular routine and pattern of things, and there's things that shift, but nothing like as substantial as what we've gone through the past few months. So, you know, so it's a very, very relevant topic, you know. So let's talk about, you know, what tips do you have for people, and what is this process like, you know? And you talked a little bit about, you know, your spiritual affiliations as well, and you know, we all have different things, you know, and whether you have a spiritual affiliation or not, there's different things that can help to ground us. So help us to, you know, kind of think through that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the most important is give yourself a break, which we can be harder on ourselves than we are on other people. And that compounds the level of stress that you have. I take mental health timeouts. So that may be I Love Lucy, or it may be the Flintstones. I mean, whatever I need to just kind of decompress. I don't want to have to think about something. So I watch things that make me laugh. I mean, if you don't watch I Love Lucy, you should, because you will definitely think that, okay, I'm going to make it. I can survive this. But it's really, even now is a good time to, if you're not in the job that you want to be in, if you're not doing what you want to do, stop and figure out how you're able to do what it is that you want to do. And I know you talk a lot about career and transition and things of that sort, but we have to find those things that give us life. Otherwise, you'll look back and you'll try to figure out, well, what did I do for the last 10 years?
Yeah. And especially, you talked about this earlier too, like there's people that are kind of purpose driven, and they live authentically, and they make choices, and sometimes they're brave choices, and other times, you know, it wasn't a choice that was made. I mean, my career journey, the path I'm in right now, it wasn't like planned. It wasn't like, I always admired people that kind of were on their own, but I never would have had the courage to do things on my own. The universe nudged me forward, and I had an opportunity to decide what I wanted to do next. But there's so many people out there, Sandy, and probably some that are watching today, that admire people who have that courage to live through purpose, and to get out of a job that they're really not happy in, to do something else. But it's a scary process. And, you know, how many times you bump into people and they say, well, this is what I've been doing for the past, you know, 20 years, 15 years. This is who I am. What's your advice? And sometimes I just want to shake them and say, well, it's not who you are, you know, figure out. But what is your advice? I mean, people watching here today that are like, I can't do that.
Right. And what I tell them is that they can. The reality is, sometimes we take on the identity of our jobs, just like we take on the identities of being a parent. You know, I don't have kids, but I can't imagine in this time what parents are going through when you want to get a break and you can't get a break. You know, everybody's in the house together. And I think we're in a fortunate time because when there's nothing else that you can do, now is a great time to be creative and inventive and just really find out who is it that I really want to be, and what do I want to be when I grow up? Because at some point we stop asking that. I realized going up the corporate ladder was not what I wanted to do, but it was what I was taught to do.
Right. What you're supposed to do, right? You followed
That's
what you're
right.
supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that didn't make me happy.
So how did you kind of come to that conclusion, and how did you make that break from corporate and go into, Exodus Consulting?
Right. So I didn't initially know that I wasn't happy in my job, but in 2016, I ended up with a stomach tumor.
Oh, wow.
And, and I don't know how. The doctor, I said, well, what's going on? How do what's the problem? Can I eat? That was my first question.
I think I remember you talking about this now that you said that.
I'm like, can I eat? I just want to make sure that I can do that. And I realized, he says, your body's fighting against itself. So I was internalizing a lot of stress, a lot of things that I didn't think, I thought I was handling. I thought I was good. I was handling it. I was, on an executive team, and it didn't work out. And so at that point, you go back and say, do I give all of this up for a sense of sanity and joy and happiness, or do I keep doing the same thing that I've always been doing? And hopefully I don't get another stomach tumor, And so it was at that point of kind of making the decision and planning and not even really knowing what it looked like. And that's where I really had to focus on, it's okay for me not to know what it looks like.
Okay. And
that's hard.
That's scary, right? Is it hard, or is it scary, or what are the emotions,
Yeah, well, because you don't know what next year looks like, or you didn't make as much as you did when you were in corporate or doing other jobs, but you're happy.
Yeah.
You like to connect with other people. And so it's really thinking about kind of those things and determining, what is the best thing that I am able to do at this particular time, and how can I pivot? How can I, do two things at once, and then eventually get to that one big thing, that one great thing that gives me life and gives me joy. And that's kind of how Exodus came about. And in that term, that word means to depart. And I was just really tired of doing the same thing over and over again, and really not having the great impact that I wanted to. And so I felt like I could make a good impact, or make an impact helping organizations and helping, individuals find their purpose and really coach them to live it out. And so I'm excited about that, and have been really enjoying this last almost 2.5 years, 2 years.
That's amazing. So tell me too about your business. I mean, when you first started, what you were kind of offering in terms of service and consulting and public speaking and training and seminar, whatever you're doing, and then where you're at today, how has that changed? And what have you learned along that journey that you want to share with others that might be watching here?
Well, I think, what you said, it's because you start out one way and then something happens and you go another way. And initially I started out really solely focused on HR, human resources, and diversity and inclusion. I'm still doing the diversity and inclusion work. But the reality is that some of the pivot has been around the more of the strategy. And really helping organizations and helping people define their actual purpose for the organization. And so what I found is that, in many companies, there are processes that have been in place for 25 years.
Yeah. This is the way we've always done it, right?
That's the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
It takes 4 times as long. Nobody likes it. People don't follow it. then you write them up for not following it, but it's the wrong practice. You shouldn't be doing that. And it's those perpetual things that at some point is somebody from the outside that usually comes in to say, hey, let's do something a little different.
So when are people reaching out to you? Is it some kind of change maker in the company going, hey, this isn't right? Or is it, you having connections with it? How do people, because I imagine like they get stuck, companies get stuck. This is the way we've always done it. We're not going to, and I think there's a little bit of a risk. Like if we call somebody else in, they're going to look at it and go, yeah, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah. And sometimes I say that, I'm like, do you realize what you're doing?
Right.
Do you realize what you're saying? And they do. But it's at that point, you realize they really, really want help. Yeah. I really don't want to be in the same place. We really want to be an inclusive organization. We really want to make sure that we have millennials within our workforce, but we understand that we can't do the things the same way that we've always done them. And so in that, it's just really a good opportunity. Right now is a good opportunity for every organization and every person to say, what is it that I need to do different to have a greater impact? And if we think about it and digest that, I really think that we'll come out with something different and something new with a whole bunch of on fire, excited people and companies. Yeah.
Yeah. And taking us from a level of maybe disengagement to true engagement, which is really driving the bottom line. I'm commended today, companies are in business for a reason. And while we like to think it's for the greater good of the world and purpose and everything, but they want to be profitable and they want to stay in business, and they want to continue in business. But what I'm hearing you say is if you incorporate that purpose-driven environment and you're challenging yourself on, continually evolving as an organization and you're getting people on fire, you're going to be able to drive to higher levels of productivity and success in the long run, not just the short term, right? In the long run.
Exactly. So. Yes. No, and that's exactly it. That's how you become profitable, more profitable, is you are more engaging. You are an organization that people hear about and see about. And so those are things that, now's a good time. I feel like now's a good time, even though we don't know what we're doing. If you're like me, I wake up and I'm thinking, oh goodness, what am I supposed to be doing today? Yeah. And then I have a talk with myself, and sometimes I put myself on probation. You're
like, Sandy, you got to go have a nacho break right now because
you're not productive at all.
And maybe, I don't know, go sit in the corner, go take a nap for a little while because we're just,
Yes. Yeah. Nap time was yesterday. I had a 35-minute nap because nice. I just realized you're not functioning very well right now. So you need to go time out. And I did. Yep. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And it's self-care is such an important element right now too, because it is such a crazy time right now. You talked about the pressure cooker environment we're all in right now. But it's also, I think in some aspects, it's causing all of us to look at ourselves, our companies, differently. And I've had conversations with other people, and we're talking about, before this whole COVID thing hit, they were managers and leaders were very worried about work from home. How are we going to know they're actually doing their job, and how are we going to keep things productive? And then they had to quickly shift and figure out how to make that work. And now the conversation is shifting towards, okay, we're going to be bringing our people back, maybe in phases, but then maybe this isn't too bad. We got some employees that are saying, hey, can't I stay working from home, especially school's out for summer, there's no camps, we're not sure what's happening in the fall, there's a lot of changes that are happening. And so tell me, for you, how is, when folks are reaching out to you, what's been changing over the past few months? Has it been a little bit quiet and now it's starting to kind of get active again, or what's happening from that perspective?
No, it's been very fast paced for me. Even with COVID, and it's not so much as business as it is as really connecting with people that don't know, what's going on.
Okay.
Well, it's organizations, but it may be the controller or the CFO, or, I don't know what to do in a COVID environment. And I have shared, we haven't been in a pandemic in my lifetime.
Right. This is not playbook, right? Where's P, pandemic, C for COVID? No, it's not in the book.
It's
right?
not a tab. Yeah, there's nothing there that you can say, okay, well, this is what you do. But how I would try to explain it to companies and organizations, I said, listen, what would you do if someone came in with the flu, just the regular flu?
Yeah.
What would you do?
Right.
Well, I would send them home. Exactly. I
Right.
said, so the process doesn't necessarily change, so don't get caught up with, oh, it's COVID.
Yeah.
But if someone's sick, you send them home. You
Right.
you help them get well, and you give them the resources that they need. Helping organizations dust off EAP programs that they have that they've never used.
What
I'm
does
like,
EAP mean for us
it's
non-HR typey? I'm like, there's a lot of acronyms they're throwing, and I think I know, but what does it mean? What is EAP?
It's your employee assistance program.
Okay.
Many organizations have it. It's usually free for or a complement for employees and family members within their household, so they can call. They can have consultation. If you need a mental health break, you can have free consultations. Or if you need help, some healthcare workers needed help finding a daycare that would take their kids. How do you find these things when you've never done this before?
Right.
So it's really, hoping to help people figure out, how do you connect with people in this weird and crazy time?
Yeah.
We're at home, but we all have questions. We've not ever done it before. And for me, I had to take the approach that I do not have all of the answers. And that was okay.
Yeah.
I can research it. I can help you find it. I can help you even determine what's best for you. But I may not have the answer of what you need to do right now, because we've not ever done this before.
Yeah, but I see you as a very resourceful person, Sandy, and I think you're very adaptable as well. So I think that's, I see so many strengths in you, but I think those are two that really come to mind when we're having this conversation, because you'll say, hey, I don't know the answer, but I know some people. I have some really smart people in my network, so let me reach out and find a few of them. And if they don't know, they'll be able to at least keep you going into that direction.
Right.
And then the adaptability part of it too, this whole thing is kind of related to change and everything. And you're navigating it, but you're helping other people navigate it as well. So it's got to be comforting for the people you're working with.
Yeah, I believe it is, and they encourage me as well when they're like, oh, I'm so glad you gave me that information. That's a plus. I mean, I feel good about that, even if it is information. It's not a solution, but it's information. And that's more than what others have had in the past. And I think that that's what we can do for each other. It's a great time to be collaborative and supportive. To expand your network intentionally, not just to get a whole nother, 5,000 people in your network, but how can you be intentional about who you're connecting with, and value that? I often get people selling me all the time, and I'm like, don't connect. Don't connect to
it makes it an easy no when you get the invitation on LinkedIn, like, you're going to sell to me in the invite, you don't get what this network is all about. And even sometimes do you have people, Sandy, trying to sell you on the same services that you do? Like they're going to reach out to you and offer you HR consulting, and you're like, hold on a second here.
Leadership development, diversity, inclusion. Diversity and inclusion is super huge now. So I'm always opening to hear, because geographically it's different. So everything about what we're walking through with, protest and Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matters, everything that we're walking through right now is different for everybody.
Yeah.
And you have to be open to that.
Yeah. So you're an experienced speaker, panelist. I know you do workshops and webinars, and there's a couple comments I'm going to get to in just a second here right now. But and I'm just going to do a little bit of a plug. I'm putting you a little bit on the spot here, but you're open to, if organizations are looking to either book you for diversity and inclusion training, or to contract with you to help them with their D&I strategy, or if there are upcoming events. Because, where we're at right now is not just a moment in time. It's not like next week it's going to be different or back to normal, if there ever was such a thing. What I'm seeing is such positive momentum, and change is happening. And no longer can we say, well, that's not my problem, right? This is a national focus right now, and there's organizations that have gaps. So are you open to, those conversations with folks?
Absolutely. The last 3 weeks have been very busy around diversity, equity, and inclusion, helping with strategies, helping with, providing information about recruiting. Definitely, it's important to me because while we have great statements out from many companies, how do you qualify and quantify the statement? What does that look like internally? And even for employees that work in the organization, they want to know, what does this statement mean?
Right.
And what does it mean for me? And those are things that I like to help organizations figure out. It's not a quota, but what does this really mean for the people that work in the organization?
I love it. That's a really good point. And going back to, I'm going to pull the topic up here again for the folks that might be joining us a little bit late. We're talking today about rediscovering your purpose in uncertain times, and kind of related to what we're seeing right now on the topic of equality and organizations shifting. And I'm seeing, in the beginning of the COVID, we got the emails from the CEOs, saying, hey, we're protecting our employees and we're closing our and all these messages. And it was kind of like, I was getting messages, I'm sure you were too, Sandy, from people. I'm like, I don't even remember being on their email list. Like, and I'm getting these messages. And I got one, and we're starting to see these now from the same thing from Black Lives Matter, and, everything that's shifting into this diversity conversation, which is very promising, but these statement-y looking emails. And Katie Martell, somebody I follow online, I'm not sure if you know her, but she has, it was somewhere, Twitter, Instagram or something, it was like, when you see these statements, look on the organization websites, look at their leadership teams, and look at their boards. And there's a whole lot of similarity. I'm seeing in some organizations there's some diversity, but to your point, Sandy, we want to see that organizations are standing behind their words, so they're not just words. So so help us kind of think through that, and maybe give us some insights in, how does that process look, and what is your advice for folks that are leading, whether it's leaders or employees of organizations who are having those questions right now?
So I would say, as an employee, you have the right, and you should inquire of your leader, what does this mean, and how can we make an impact? So don't put it in the, what are you doing for me? Am I getting a promotion because I'm a African-American female? No, that's not kind of what we're talking about. But what does this statement mean? And if someone outside of the organization asked me, what should I tell them? What should I tell them that we're doing? How are we making an impact? The statements are good. You said statement, and I'm loving that, because that's what I feel like. I'm like, wow, this is a phenomenal statement. Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. It's a marketing statement. You can't, it's hard to quantify. And the conversation I had with one client last week is, don't make a statement. Just talk about your core values. Because you have awesome core values. And if you live by that and hold people accountable to your core values, it would mean more than you writing a statement.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting too, because some companies, I imagine, they're pulling out their mission, vision, values, and they're going, oh, look at this, diversity's in there.
Yeah, right.
We're done. Box has been checked.
What do you know? Yeah.
So what I'd like to do now, Sandy, we're just buzzing through the hour here. We're having a really great conversation. But what I'd like to do is open this up to all of you who might be watching. If you have any questions for Sandy that you'd like to drop into the comments below. And we've had some great conversations so far, and we're global, Sandy. We've got people throughout Michigan, but throughout the world watching us this morning. So thank you guys for watching. There was someone, and I want to find Tina Marie. She had a statement about the nachos, and she said there's some joke that goes along with it. I want to pull her statement back up on it because I have to know what this is. Eating nachos while watching episode of SMP. There's another acronym there. Do you know what she's talking about? SMP?
No? SMP.
Tina Marie, you're gonna have to help us out here. You have to comment in the comment, because I was kind of curious what that was.
And she said inside joke, so I should know what it is.
Maybe, unless she's talking about somebody else. I don't know. There's other people conversing back and forth in the thread. But anyways, she also mentioned you do. We're going to give you a little shameless plug here. Amazing workshop on the topic. Where could people learn about those workshops? Is that through your website, or where could they find that information out?
Yeah, absolutely. It's through my website, but they can also follow me, Sandy Lynn Harvey, on all social media mediums.
Yeah.
But exodusconsultinggroup.com, if they go there to the website, then they can reach out to me.
Okay.
It's definitely one thing I don't do, and especially around diversity and inclusion, there's no one size fits all. So anyone says, hey, can you do unconscious bias for me? I could, but tell me why.
Right.
So let's talk about, when we talk about the work that needs to be done, what is it in your organization? So it's not necessarily the same thing, but really going from the standpoint of how can I help an organization, find it. So.
All right, awesome. So it's a really good point. So one size does not fit all, you can kind of tailor the solutions, but you're going to ask them some good questions first. And I love how you're talking both about the organizational perspective and then individuals as people. So Deborah has a question, and Deborah sounds like going through a career transition. Yeah, I think in the next statement she says she's been downsized after 18 years, and she's struggling with what's next. Advice for Deborah?
Yeah, well, anybody that's, whether you're employed or not, when you're in that what's next stage, that's the first step, is asking that question, what's next? What's next for me? Yeah. What does that look like? Or, the appearance of joy and happiness, what does that look like? And really finding things in order to be able to get you there. For teachers, I don't want to teach kids anymore, but I'm a great facilitator. Yeah. How can I transfer that? There's a lot of online teaching and development that's going on. People are teaching crocheting online. I mean, it's just like, you can do whatever you want to invent. This is the best thing for me to do right now.
So what I heard you talking about was transferable skills. So that might be, perhaps a piece of advice for Deborah. And I think there's a couple others on here as well. Maybe thinking about like listing out everything you liked about what you were doing. Yes. And don't put on that list the things that you didn't like, just put the things that you did like. And it could be broader, like I enjoyed working with people, or it could be very specific. I enjoyed developing databases, it could be kind of either one of those things. And then starting to think about, Sandy, and I think it's very hard when you've been doing the same thing for so long, you have never had that opportunity to breathe and say, what do I actually like doing? And what I heard you saying is like kind of giving yourself that space to think about that, right?
Yes. So, giving yourself the space to think about what is it that you enjoy, what brings you life. The best time to do that is before you have to.
Right.
And, some are being kind of transitioned out of a role. I remember when I moved here 18 years ago, I had to do something different because I did not have a job moving from Texas, so newly married, and did not have a clue. I knew what I was good at. I knew what I did in Texas, but couldn't find a job. So I had to become an independent consultant. And I traveled across the US and Canada, providing diversity and inclusion and leadership training to a lot of great organizations. But sometimes you're forced into it. And I think right now is you're forced into it, but what can you create out of it?
Yeah. And I want to encourage people. There's a few folks that are in the comments on LinkedIn right now, jotting these comments in here. Here's another one from Jill. And I want to encourage, not just, Sandy, but the community at large, take a minute, pop on over to Jill's profile, invite her to connect. And if you have resources or information to share or insights to share, comment on Jill's post here or on, connect with her. Because I think there's a whole community element of all of this right now where we can all kind of help each other with navigating the path that's in here. And Olivia's joining us. I want to say thank you so much, Olivia, for that nice comment. Mark, a couple people were commenting on the corporate ladder, that dreaded corporate ladder.
I know. That was so sad because I remember my mom saying, okay, well, now you're a manager. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, well, what are you going to do next? Right. Now, there's nothing, she did not mean anything of harm about that. Right. But the reality is that that's what we're done. We're taught to go up the ladder.
Right. The next rung. There's always like, when you're at what's the next one up? Where do you go after this? Yeah. Yeah. So, but So shifting gears, Carol loves I Love Lucy. I love Lucy.
Carol.
Do you have like a favorite episode, Sandy, or is it like
the one with the chocolates on the little tram
the
thing?
Conveyor belt, yeah.
And then the other one is the grapes when they're in the.
Yeah.
I actually have DVDs of.
Do you?
Some people don't know. If you don't know what DVD is, it's a little round.
What does DVD stand for? No,
it's a little round thing that you plop in, Yeah, I'm like, who has that anymore?
Yeah. And Sandy or Kathy, I should say, is saying, and we're all in this self-employed community. I'm like, you guys think we all got it down pat? No, we don't. We're all like, we wake up in the morning like, what am I doing today? And I had a moment yesterday where I was like, I was talking to my friend Diane, and I'm like, I'm just feeling I'm getting things done, but I'm feeling like in some ways not productive. I feel like so unfocused. Everything has changed, and businesses are changing, and business models, and it's like, I hear you, Sandy and Kat, both. What am I doing today? What am I doing with my life? What do I want to do when I grow up? And it's crazy.
You're asking yourself more of that, more and more these days, because we don't see a way out or change happening anytime soon.
Yeah. So shifting back to, I asked, Tina Marie earlier, she said SMP, and we were both like, huh? What does that mean? Yeah, social media pie. Yeah. So there we go. And then Tina Marie also mentioned that you'll work for nachos, just don't bring her to a restaurant that doesn't sell them anymore. Did that happen? Did she take you somewhere that didn't have nachos?
Yes. She did. And she said it was after a conference, and she told me that, this place has great nachos. Let's go across the street. And we went across, and they said they don't sell nachos anymore. And I'm like, how do you take nachos off of a menu?
Yeah, that's
the easiest thing to create. Yes.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. Yeah. So I wasn't happy with her for a while.
Was Rusty Bucket the name of it? She does a lot of hashtag drops, so I'm like,
yes.
Okay, I wasn't happy with her for a while. That's why you were snubbing her at conferences. You're like, someplace without nachos.
Yeah, I told her she can't pick the place, or I need to be able to look at the menu first. So.
Well, Sandy, so many people are commenting, on you're being such an inspirational leader, a guiding light. A lot of people really appreciating that. Paul had to look up what DVD meant just now, Paul,
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't surprise me, like a couple more years, the kids are going to be like, what is a DVD? What does a little save icon mean? What is it? Yeah. So as we kind of start to wrap here today, and I just want to thank all of you that are watching. We're continuing to see comments that are coming in, but we're getting close to the end of the hour. And I want to give Sandy the opportunity to offer any closing remarks to our group. We were talking today about, I'm going to put the topic back up on here again. We're talking about rediscovering your purpose in uncertain times. So any kind of closing thoughts there on that subject, Sandy, or any final shout outs or comments or anything you want to offer to those watching?
Well, definitely shout out to my sister from another Mr. Tina Marie Woolfield, and my brother from another mother, Paul Sherwood. So he's my nacho buddy that we have to eventually get nachos together. But I mean, I would really say for this time, it is so important to find people and things that give you life. I've even had to realize, there's a lot of things that I need to declutter here at home. There are some sizes that I don't fit into anymore, and that's okay. But I need to get rid of them. Don't just hold them in the closet just to keep up space. But when we're talking about rediscovering your purpose, it's finding the things that give you life, finding the organizations that have this match your values, which I think are really important. Oftentimes, no one teaches you to do that, even through undergrad or graduate school. No one tells you that your personal values matter, and go find an organization that matches your personal values.
So you're telling people that.
I am telling you that you have to, for you, in order to have life, even when you leave work, is to make sure that you find a place where your values matter and where you enjoy doing the work. You enjoy being around the people, just for the mere fact of what it is that you're doing. And you can start over. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter if you're starting over in a different industry. It doesn't matter. I really believe that everybody that's on here, especially because they're following you, they have the skill to pivot and transition. And I know they can do it.
Yeah, you got to believe in yourself, and you're never too old to live your dream. You know, I've talked to several people throughout, you know, this process of being on my own too, and you're never too old. I mean, I was reading a story the other day. It was like an 80-year-old just finished her graduate or her bachelor's degree, and I'm like, that's awesome. You know, lifelong dreams. It's never too late, and there's so many success stories out there about people who pivoted after 40, pivoted after 50, you know, after 60, they started a second career, and that was their dream job. And you are not a tree. You know, if you're not happy, move. You know, you can make those actions and start by giving yourself permission was one of the things I heard you say here today too, Sandy. So
give yourself permission and give yourself a break. I was a perfectionist, and I lived by that, and I tried to do everything always right. And there's no way that you can do that and survive. And so when you follow your dreams and follow the things that you desire to do, it's also realizing that you don't have to try to explain that to everybody else.
Yeah. You got to give yourself permission to, I think. And the corporate ladder is not necessarily the end all be all. And once you release yourself from that point of view, it's really hard, you know, because it's what society says, but you will realize and experience different levels of career satisfaction, life satisfaction, happiness, and peace, right?
Yes.
That you're living your purpose. Yeah.
Yes.
So awesome. Yeah. All right, Sandy. So I'm going to throw a couple of items up on the screen here as we wrap here today. One is your LinkedIn URL, and what is your personal, you know, kind of point of view on LinkedIn? Are you open to connecting with people?
Absolutely.
You know, what are your thoughts there? Okay.
Yes, I'm open to connecting on LinkedIn with people, and definitely, as long as you're not selling. I want you to
don't sell.
Don't sell. I want you to connect. I want to connect. I want to know you. So yes.
All right, guys. So when you go to Sandy's LinkedIn, I put the profile kind of below. I don't know if I can get my fingers over there, below over there. But when you visit her profile and you connect with her, mention that you heard her on the show today. If you're going to invite her to connect, do not sell in your invitation. But if there was something particularly meaningful that she shared with you today, if you're interested in learning more about any of her products, services, webinars, any of the training, things like that, booking her as a speaker, you know, anything like that, you know, definitely feel free to reach out to her there. And then I did include your websites a little bit earlier in the show as well, but I'll just throw that back up on screen. Sandy Harvey, you've got two websites, right? SandyHarvey.com, and then you've got Exodus Consulting Group. What is the difference between the two?
So one is pretty much the personal speaking engagement. The Exodus Consulting Group is more or less the strategic operations, the brains.
Awesome.
That's all me.
Yeah, I love it. And I love how you split them out. I'm kind of struggling with that in my own Meller marketing. I've got like a
you got to.
Got to split it up. Like I got socialmediapie.com reserved. So maybe I split that off and try something there. So at any rate, thank you, Sandy. It was just such a delight speaking with you today. I can't wait to see you in person and have nachos.
Hug.
I know. I want to hug you. Have you been to we're both in Macomb County. So Infinity, the restaurant that's at like Utica and 14, they've got, and I was going to bring a picture and I forgot to today. So they literally have this bucket of nachos. I kid you not. It's in this tin thing, and they bring out a big platter. And when they bring out the platter, they flip the bucket of nachos over, and then they pull the bucket out, and the nachos all fall, and there's all these gooey.
It's called Infinity
Sidebar and Grill. It used to be, I don't know if anybody's watching right now. I think it used to be called Hofbräu House, and it's on 14 Mile in Utica and Fraser. And they have this nachos spectacular thing. I think they're even open now. We could probably meet there sometime, but like we'll have to try it, because it's like this nacho thing is not like a one person. It's probably like a 10-person tray, but it's like this bucket literally that they tip over, and you get this nacho spectacular thing. So we got to try that out sometime. Yeah.
I'm feeling that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for joining today, Sandy. And I want to just thank all of you for watching. If you could, please do us a favor and click to share this video with others in your network. And then if you're not already, make sure you visit mellermarketing.com/subscribe, where you can sign up to get email notifications from me about upcoming live interviews, as well as LinkedIn strategy tips and much more. So Sandy, thank you again. I look forward to seeing you in the future. All right, guys.
All right. Take care.
All right. Stay healthy, stay safe, everyone. And we'll see you online again in the future. Have a great day. And go eat. Are you going to eat those nachos now, Sandy? Do you still have them? Where are they at? Did somebody eat them? Are they still there?
They're still here.
All right, guys, have a good one.